When someone says the odds are against you, what they're really saying is this: they don't believe you can do it. They're handing you statistics, patterns, and probabilities like they're shackles meant to hold you down. But here's the truth: you are not a number. You are not a statistic. You are possibility in motion. The odds are nothing more than other people's assumptions about what's possible for you. And every time you take a step, every time you push back, every time you refuse to quit, you're proving them wrong. Beating the odds isn't about waiting for luck to show up. It's about creating your own luck through relentless courage, small decisions stacked on top of each other, and the refusal to let someone else write the ending to your story. You are capable of more than the world expects. And today, I want you to decide to stop living by their numbers and start living by your potential. They tell you the odds. They love to tell you the odds. The odds of starting from where you are and actually making it. The odds of breaking free from the cycle your family has been in for years. The odds of getting that promotion, that scholarship, that business idea off the ground. The odds of surviving, succeeding, thriving. Numbers always numbers. They'll throw them at you like they're facts carved in stone. But let me ask you something: when has a number ever captured the fire inside your chest? When has a statistic ever factored in your grit, your hunger, your heart? You see, numbers are tidy. They fit neatly on a spreadsheet, in a headline, in a graph that somebody presents at a conference. Numbers reduce people down to trends and probabilities. And here's the problem with that: you are not a trend. You are not a probability. You are a human being with the ability to choose, to act, to persist. And choice changes everything. Think about it. If statistics were destiny, no one would ever rise above where they were born. If numbers were final, no one would break records. No one would change industries. No one would prove doctors, teachers, coaches, and experts wrong. And yet, we've all seen it happen. The kid who was told only 1 in 1,000 makes it and still made it. The entrepreneur who was told 90% of businesses fail and built an empire anyway. The patient who was told you only have a slim chance and walked out of the hospital with life in their lungs and fire in their eyes. Those people didn't let statistics decide for them. They decided for themselves. Because here's what statistics don't measure: drive. They don't measure the nights you're willing to stay up when everyone else is asleep. They don't measure the pain you're willing to push through, the risks you're willing to take, the resilience you're willing to build. They don't measure the moment you look at yourself in the mirror and say, "I'm not done yet." Numbers don't capture that. Numbers can't predict that. And yet, how many of us live like the odds are absolute truth? How many of us hear that the chances are slim and immediately shrink back? We think, well, maybe they're right. Maybe it's not worth trying. Maybe I should settle. And just like that, the odds win. Not because they were unbeatable, but because we surrendered before we even started. Here's the truth: the odds are only accurate when you accept them. If you buy into the statistic, if you decide it applies to you, then yeah, the numbers might just hold you hostage. But if you reject it, if you decide you're going to show up differently, if you choose to do what others won't, the odds start shifting in your favor. Let me make this real for you. Imagine two people standing at the starting line of the same race. Both are told they only have a 10% chance of finishing. One hears that number and says, only 10%, then why bother? And they walk away. The other hears it and says, 10% is still a chance. And if someone else has done it, why can't I? Who do you think makes it across the finish line? It's not about the number. It's about what you decide to do with it. And that's where your power lies, in your decisions. Not in the statistic, not in the circumstances stacked against you, but in the small daily choices you make to keep moving forward. Every choice you make tips the scale. Every time you wake up and try again, you increase the odds. Every time you push the resistance, you increase the odds. Every time you fail, learn, and get back up, you increase the odds. until one day you've defied them completely. So stop letting numbers define you. Stop letting percentages tell you who you are. You are not a fraction. You are not a decimal. You are not the average that some study decided you should be. You are a force of nature, and nature doesn't follow neat, predictable patterns. Nature breaks through. Nature grows through concrete, splits through stone, climbs mountains it was never supposed to reach. That's you. The odds will always be there. People will always quote them, analyze them, remind you of them. But the moment you stop giving them authority over your life, you take back your power. Because the odds don't decide your future, your choices do. So the next time someone tells you the odds are against you, smile. Smile because you know something they don't. You're not betting on numbers. You're betting on yourself. And that is the most unstoppable bet you can ever make. We make the mistake of thinking courage is this giant, dramatic, life-altering moment. We imagine standing on a stage, facing down thousands, or running into danger, or quitting a job in one bold leap. And yes, sometimes courage looks like that. But more often than not, courage is far quieter. It's smaller. It's hidden in the decisions you make when no one's watching. Because courage is not something you magically have, it's something you build. And the way you build it is choice by choice, moment by moment, decision by decision. Think about it every single day. You're faced with hundreds of choices. Do you speak up in the meeting or do you stay silent? Do you hit snooze again or do you roll out of bed and go for that run? Do you send the message, apply for the role, take the risk, or do you let fear talk you out of it? Each of these choices seems small, almost insignificant, but they are the building blocks of your courage. They're the training ground for your bravery. Most people wait until the big moment to be courageous. They think, one day when I'm faced with something huge, I'll step up. But here's the problem. If you're not practicing courage in the little things, you won't have the strength to summon it in the big ones. Courage isn't a switch you flip. It's a muscle you train. And just like in the gym, it's the repetition, the daily practice, the consistent resistance that builds the strength. Let's get real. Courage is uncomfortable. It feels like your chest tightening, your palms sweating, your mind whispering, don't do it, you'll embarrass yourself, you'll fail, you're not ready. And then there's a split second, a tiny window of time, where you have to choose, do you listen to fear, or do you take the leap anyway? That decision is everything. And every time you choose courage, you tip the scale in your favor. It doesn't have to be flashy. Maybe it's choosing to raise your hand and share your idea, even when your voice shakes. Maybe it's saying no to something that's draining you, even when it's uncomfortable. Maybe it's being honest about what you want, instead of pretending to be satisfied with less. These choices don't make headlines, but they are how you change your life. Because courage compounds. One small brave decision builds confidence. That confidence leads to another decision, and another. And before you know it, you've created momentum. That's how people break through. Not by waiting for one dramatic act of bravery, but by stacking tiny acts of courage until suddenly, the big stuff doesn't feel so impossible anymore. I want you to think of courage like interest in a bank account. You make one deposit, a small choice to speak up, to take action, to try. That's your first investment. Then you keep making deposits, showing up when it's hard, staying consistent, being honest with yourself. Over time, those deposits grow, they compound. And when life throws you a challenge that seems bigger than you, you've already built the reserves to face it. Now, the opposite is also true. Every time you choose comfort over courage, fear grows strong. Every time you back down from a small risk, you train yourself to hesitate, to doubt, to settle. And then when the big moment comes, you don't rise. You shrink, not because you weren't capable, but because you didn't practice. So the question is, which are you practicing more? Fear or courage? Comfort or growth? Avoidance or action? You are always training something. You're always building a habit. The power is in deciding which one you want to strengthen. And here's the beautiful part, that courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. Courage means you feel the fear and you do it anyway. That's why it matters so much in the small decisions. Because every time you act in spite of fear, even in a tiny way, you're teaching yourself, I can handle this. I can survive the discomfort. I can do hard things. And that lesson is priceless. Maybe the decision you make today isn't going to change the world, but it might just change you. And that's enough, because the version of you who consistently chooses courage, even in the small things, is the version who will be ready when life tests you. So don't wait for the big dramatic moment. Build your courage right now. Start with one decision, then another. Stack them. Watch yourself grow stronger. And when someone asks how you beat the odds, you'll know the truth. It wasn't one big act of bravery. It was hundreds of small, courageous decisions that tipped the scale in your favor. People love to hand you a script for your life. Maybe it's your parents, your teachers, your boss, your neighbors, or even society at large. They hand you the story they think you should live. And most of the time, that story is built around limits. People like you don't get ahead. No one from this neighborhood makes it out. You're too young. You're too old. It's too late. These scripts are filled with excuses, limitations, and ceilings that are meant to keep you small. But here's the truth, your story matters more than the excuses stacked against you. Your story is yours to write. And if you don't take the pen into your own hands, someone else will write it for you. Think about how many people live inside a script they didn't write. They go to a job they hate because that's just what people do. They stay in unhealthy relationships because leaving would be too hard. They bury their dreams because people like me don't get opportunities like that. These aren't truths. These are excuses disguised as facts. And when you live by excuses, you erase the possibility of discovering who you really are. Your story matters because it's proof. Proof that the excuses are wrong. Proof that the odds don't get the final say. Proof that a person can rise even when everything is stacked against them. And the best part, you don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to wait for someone to hand you a better script. You can start rewriting today. Now let's get brutally honest for a second. Excuses are seductive. They feel safe. They give us an easy way out. I can't because of my past. I can't because of where I live. I can't because no one supports me. Those excuses feel like protection, but really they're a prison. They keep you locked into a story that was never meant to define you. And the longer you repeat them, the more you start to believe them. But the moment you say, no, I'm rewriting this. This is my story, not theirs. Everything shifts. You begin to take ownership, and ownership is power. Ownership says, yes, the odds are against me, but I choose to fight anyway. Yes, the excuses are real, but they don't get to run the show. Ownership is the moment you pick up the pen and start writing a story worth telling. Let me give you a picture. Imagine two books sitting side by side on a shelf. One is thick, filled with excuses, filled with almosts, filled with what could have been. The other is bold, filled with messy pages, crossed out lines, risks taken, dreams chased, mistakes made, and victories won. Which one do you want your life to be? The safe one full of excuses, or the brave one full of choices? Because here's the thing, your story isn't inspiring when it's perfect. Your story is inspiring when it's real. People don't connect to a life that had no struggle. They connect to the person who faced the struggle and still rose. They connect to the one who had 1,000 reasons to quit and found one reason to keep going. That's you. That's the story only you can write. So how do you rewrite it? Start small. Start by refusing to repeat the excuses you've been handed. Catch yourself when you say, I can't because, and flip it into, I will despite. That tiny shift is powerful. Then take action. Do one thing today that belongs in the story you want to tell, not the story others expect you to live. Apply for the program. Start the business. Have the hard conversation. Every action is another sentence written in your favor. Over time, those small rewrites add up. The old script begins to fade. The excuses lose their power. And suddenly, you're living a story that others look at and say, if they can do it, maybe I can too. That's how your story changes not only your life, but also the lives of people around you. So I'll ask you this, what story are you living right now? Is it one that was handed to you, full of excuses and limits? Or is it one you're writing yourself, messy, brave, and undeniably yours? Because at the end of the day, you won't be remembered for the excuses you made. You'll be remembered for the story you lived. And your story, it matters. It matters more than the statistics, more than the doubters, more than the odds stacked against you. Pick up the pen, write something extraordinary, because the world doesn't need another excuse. It needs your story. Nobody likes adversity. Nobody wakes up saying, I hope today knocks me flat on my back. And yet, when you look back on your life, isn't it the toughest seasons that shaped you the most? Isn't it the moments when everything felt impossible that ended up proving to you just how strong you really are? Adversity isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's the training ground for resilience. Every challenge you faced, every failure, rejection, heartbreak, setback, wasn't there to break you. It was there to build you. And the harder the challenge, the sharper your strength becomes. Think of adversity like lifting weights. The resistance hurts. Your muscles burn. You want to drop the bar and quit. But what's actually happening in that pain? Growth. Every rep tears your muscles just a little, and then they rebuild stronger. Life works the exact same way. Every hardship you endure stretches you, challenges you, even hurts you. But it also creates the possibility of growth. And if you keep pushing, you come out stronger than you ever thought possible. The people you admire most, the ones who inspire you, the ones who defy the odds, they are not the ones who had it easy. They are the ones who fell, who failed, who suffered, and got back up. They didn't run from adversity. They walked straight into it, and they let it shape them into warriors. That's what resilience really is. The ability to take the hit and rise anyway. Here's the mistake we make. We pray for an easy life. We wish away the obstacles. We think, if only things were smoother, I'd succeed. But the truth is, if life was always easy, you'd never discover your strength. You'd never dig deep. You'd never know what you're truly capable of. Adversity forces you to stretch beyond what feels comfortable. It strips away the illusions. It tests you. And in that test, you find yourself. Now, let's get real for a second. Adversity doesn't feel like a gift when you're in it. It feels unfair. It feels cruel. It feels like you're drowning while everyone else is swimming. But hindsight has a way of showing us that the very thing we thought was breaking us was actually shaping us. That heartbreak that shattered you, it taught you what love you truly deserved. That failure that humiliated you, it gave you the grit to keep trying until you found success. That season of struggle when you had nothing, it gave you perspective, humility, and gratitude for what you now have. You don't build resilience on sunny days. You build it in the storm. You build it when you're forced to keep going with tears in your eyes. You build it when the plan falls apart and you have to create a new one from scratch. You build it when you're on the edge of quitting, but you decide to take one more step. And here's the secret: adversity doesn't just train you, it qualifies you. Every time you overcome, you earn credibility with yourself. You start to trust your own strength. You start to believe, if I survive that, I can survive this. That's resilience. And resilience is what allows you to keep showing up, no matter what the odds say. Look around. The people who quit at the first sign of trouble, they never build resilience. They never get to see what they're capable of. But the ones who face adversity head on, who refuse to let it define them, they're unstoppable. Because once you've been through the fire and come out stronger, the fire doesn't scare you anymore. So here's the challenge I want to leave with you. Stop resenting adversity. Start using it. The next time you're in a hard season, instead of asking, why me? Ask, what is this teaching me? What strength am I building right now? That shift in perspective will change everything. Because one day, you'll look back and realize the adversity you hated was the very thing that prepared you for the life you were meant to live. The struggle wasn't there to destroy you. It was there to train you. And every tear, every setback, every sleepless night was sharpening you into someone who can beat the odds. So don't wish for easy, wish for strength. Don't pray for less adversity, pray for more resilience. Because the truth is, the harder the challenge, the sharper your strength becomes. And that strength, that's what's going to carry you across the finish line. Hope is beautiful. Hope lights a spark in you. Hope gives you the vision of what could be. But let's be honest, hope alone doesn't change your life. You can hope all day, hope all night, hope until you're blue in the face. And if you don't follow that hope with action, nothing happens. Hope is the seed. Action is the water, the sunlight, the daily care that makes it grow. And if you want to beat the odds, you cannot stop at belief. You must be relentless in action. Think of all the people who say, one day I'll write that book. One day I'll start that business. One day I'll take care of my health. They believe it's possible. They have hope, but one day never comes because they never take action today. Belief without action is just a dream. Belief with action, that's transformation. Here's what separates the people who beat the odds from the ones who don't: relentlessness. Not talent, not luck. Relentlessness. The willingness to get up every single day and do the work, even when it's hard, even when you're tired, even when progress feels invisible. Because success doesn't come from one big dramatic act. It comes from small, consistent actions compounded over time. You don't need to climb the mountain in one leap. You just need to take one step, and then another, and another. Those steps, taken relentlessly, will get you to the top while everyone else is still standing at the bottom, talking about their hopes and dreams. Now, let's be clear, being relentless doesn't mean you don't stumble. It doesn't mean you don't doubt yourself. It doesn't mean you don't have days when you want to quit. Being relentless means you keep moving anyway. It means when you fall, you get back up. When you fail, you learn and try again. When the odds scream, you can't, you whisper back, watch me. And here's why action matters so much. Every action you take builds evidence. Evidence that you are capable. Evidence that you are disciplined. Evidence that you're stronger than your excuses. When you act, you don't just move closer to your goal. You prove to yourself that you can. And that proof is what fuels belief. It's a cycle. Belief sparks action. Action strengthens belief. And together, they make you unstoppable. Too many people get stuck waiting for motivation. They think they need to feel ready before they act. But readiness is a lie. You don't wait for motivation, you create it. How? By acting first. You don't feel like running, but you lace up and run anyway. You don't feel like making the call, but you dial the number anyway. You don't feel like writing, but you sit down and type anyway. And guess what? The motivation shows up after you've already started. That's what it means to be relentless, to act without waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, or the perfect plan. To act when it's inconvenient, when it's scary, when it's uncomfortable. Because the truth is, if you only act when it's easy, you'll never beat the odds. Think of the people who defied expectations, who created breakthroughs, who made history. They weren't the ones who just believed it could happen. They were the ones who acted relentlessly, even when they had no guarantee it would work. They showed up again and again and again until eventually the world had no choice but to take notice. And let's be real, relentlessness isn't glamorous. It's messy. It's waking up at 5 a.m. when no one's watching. It's failing publicly and deciding to try again anyway. It's working behind the scenes, stacking small wins while everyone else is still waiting for inspiration. But this is the grind that beats the odds. Not the highlight reel, not the big speech. but the quiet, unshakable decision to act. So, if you want to beat the odds, stop telling yourself you'll do it tomorrow. Stop hiding behind belief without backing it with effort. Start today. Take one action that aligns with the life you want. Then another tomorrow. Then another the day after that. Be relentless. Let your consistency shock people. Let your actions tell the story your words can't. Because hope is powerful. It gives you the vision of what's possible. But hope without action is just a wish. And you don't beat the odds by wishing. You beat the odds by working, by showing up, by being relentless. So don't just believe in yourself. Prove it every single day.